something that I've wanted to do for a long time, since the first episode that I ever saw of a Mecum car auction was actually go to a Mecum car auction. That's what we did recently. We went to a Mecum car auction in Las Vegas in November 2025. And the other thing that I wanted to do was be able to buy a car for a relatively cheap price. They have $1 million cars there too, but they also have cars that are under $10,000. That was my goal. Get a car for under $10,000. But I didn't know what that meant at first. Like, what does it take to go to a Mecum auction? Um, what's the schedule? What do I need if I want to buy a car? Can I look at them beforehand? And can I drive it away? We're going to find out right now. Let's look at the auction page first. This is the Mecum auction website. It's mecum.com. So say I want to go to an auction and I'm interested in buying a car. Well, they do cars and motorcycles, by the way. In fact, in January of 2026, there's going to be a Las Vegas motorcycles auction in Vegas again, by the way, which I will be at on the first day. You want to know where an auction is, you can look at the schedule right here, and it'll tell you from now until at least 8 or 9 months from now. So we got Kissimmee, which started today, by the way, January 6th. Las Vegas Motorcycles coming up January 27th. Then we have Glendale, Arizona coming up in March, which Nightmare Logistics will be there on March 17th. I already got my plane ticket. I think Quint's got his too. So we're going to fly in early in the morning. We're going to take that day only, and we're going to fly back that same evening. Then on Saturday morning, we're going to fly back to Glendale, grab the car, and we're going to drive it to San Diego, which is about 300 miles. So the first person that comes up and says hello will get a large Nightmare Logistics t-shirt. So I will bring one. We'll see. So we'll see if somebody gets it. Let's go and look at what we do. First of all, we got to research the cars. We got to see what's coming up. So if I'm going to Glendale and it's in March, it's still so early that if I look at the lots or the cars that are going to be in it, this is a list for all of the cars for all of the days. And I might just browse through those. But in my case, I know that I'm only going to be there on Tuesday, March 17th. So right now they're only showing 2 cars, but looky here, I do love this one. 1955 Oldsmobile 88 Holiday Hardtop. That's a beauty. Look at that thing. Is it perfect? Maybe not. You know, you can see some little, maybe there's something it's not completely 100,000,000% straight just by looking at the shades. But wow, what a good looking car. And look at that front end. I love that. Look at the chrome on it and look at the lettering. Another thing I love about the Oldsmobiles is this. They always have that globe of North and South America on it. It's totally cool. And what a beautiful car it is. And I believe 324 cubic inch rocket V8, so that's definitely an Oldsmobile engine. Could be original. So that's really cool, right? You got to admit it. It's really cool. And that's bigger than the, what was it, 265 that the Chevrolets had. So Oldsmobiles offered bigger engines, it looks like. 57, Chevy had the 283, right? I don't know what Oldsmobile had in 57. Probably something even bigger than 324. Maybe not. Beautiful car, though. So that one will be more than what I want to pay for it. So I probably won't consider that, but I'm going to look at it and do a little bit of research on it. This car will probably go for cheap enough. You know, we'll do these too. We haven't ever done one of these, like kind of the Mercedes and the Jaguars of circa like 2003 era. But they're going for so cheap. Look at them. You know, get on there and look at what Mercedes are going for. Let's just do a search real quick on previous auctions. By the way, this is kind of how I do some of my research. First, I find the cars that I like. So if it was a 55 Oldsmobile 88 Holiday, I'm going to look up results and probably put in the keyword Holiday. We'll see what they've gone for before. Now there's an Oldsmobile Holiday Coupe that I'd love to have. Oh, look at this guy. This one's only $19,800. So if you could maybe get that one for around that price, that would be really cool. Is that the same year? 55. So yeah, 2-door, 324 with 200 horsepower. And now I can look at, is that engine an overhead valve engine? There's the answer. Absolutely. This one even has power steering. in 1955, mind you. That's cool. So that might give me an idea. Hey, look, before I go, I can see a lot of these Super 88 holidays could be 20 grand. A 56 for 11.5. What else? A 56 for 14.3. So yeah, it's possible that car might go for $11,000. Depends on what the market is too. Another thing to consider is region or location of the auction. You're gonna if you go to there's not one in Mobile, Alabama per se, but there is one in Kissimmee, Florida. That's probably going to go a lot cheaper than cars that are in Monterey, California. Those are the big dogs right there. In fact, last year I think there was only like 2 cars in the whole auction that were under $10,000. I don't remember the exact number. I built a spreadsheet. Whereas you go to Kissimmee and it'll have 45 cars on one day out of, you know, uh, 12 days of bidding. So not all days are going to have that. Your Saturdays are not going to have 40 $10,000 cars. They might have two, maybe have zero, might have five. I don't know. But then you've got this holiday rambler. What's funny is this holiday rambler. That's why I got that from us because I know about RVs too and I like them. But that's cheaper than the cars. It's pretty funny. And look, they'll even throw in a kitchen sink. Anyway, that's what I do. I decide what auction am I going to go to. I do some research and just try to figure out which auctions are going to be a little bit less expensive and how am I going to get it home. My goal is to never transport or have a car transported home for me. That's not the adventure. The adventure is driving that thing back. So that's what I want to do out of this. I want to have really cool adventures. So for what does this mean for me? That's what this video really is what is a Mecum auction to Grant, and what is a Mecum auction to Nightmare Logistics. So anyway, let's go back to it. Not trying to repeat anything. We're going to go to Glendale, we already know, and we found a car and we kind of did a little bit of research. We'll say we researched it more to see, hey, what kind of engines do they have? Are they reliable? What are the known problems? Does it look like it has good tires on it? Because the pictures aren't always great, but you can sort of tell, and you can tell by the way they took care of it. Some of them might have 20-year-old tires, though, that you don't want to take on a, 3, 4, 500 mile trip or a 3,000 mile trip. My goal, by the way, for January 2027 is to go all the way to Kissimmee from San Diego, fly there one way, find a car, get it, and drive it home. Yeah, 3,000 miles. That's the goal. I think for 2027. But anyway, what does it take to become a bidder? I'm going to go to the buy page and how to buy. You can be a bidder by telephone. You can do it in person, which I think is the way to do it. You can also do it on the internet. So if you can't make it and there's a car you want, it's okay to do the internet, but I don't like that. I don't like it that there's somebody on the internet bidding against me when I'm there. It's just they're not there. They don't know the car, and some people are crazy. They have no idea what a car's worth, and they'll pay twice of what it is actually worth. So anyway, there's your methods of buying. So you're going to see this too. In-person bidding. There's the guy buying the vehicle, and these guys right here are your auction assistants, I think they're called. So they're the guys that run up and they go, ho, and make a big hoopla whenever you say, yes, I'm going to bid. In fact, we're going to put up a little video on that. Telephone bidding. I haven't really seen them while I was there. Then you've got your internet bidding, and your internet bidder is going to be represented by the person sitting up front on the internet receiving those bids. And who's got the bid at any given time because the helpers or assistants' hand is up. They're holding it up. So when you have the bid, actually. You can look right at your auctioneer assistant, and if he's holding his hands up and standing in front of you, you've still got that bid. You're still the high bid. If he drops that hand and you didn't hear it, somebody else got the bid. Whenever you bid on a car, don't let it fool you and don't get caught up in the moment. Try to set your maximum price before you start to bid and stick with it. I don't know that I've done that or not. It's pretty exciting and you start to feel, emboldened and empowered and you think, oh, I'm going to start bidding now. I remember the first time I started bidding, I was a little bit cautious. I was a little bit nervous. And I've been buying cars for, a long time and I've owned 50 cars at least. So I'm pretty good at buying, but I thought I was going to be really nervous, and I actually wasn't. I felt pretty calm and confident about it, actually. Go figure. Go figure, because I'm hyper. But you'll see a video of it. So, yeah, I won a car, but when I first started bidding, yeah, I felt a little nervous. And as soon as I started to, though, I thought, this is fun. I really enjoy it. And then you want to start doing more. So be careful with that. That's why we were going to get one car and we ended up with three. So, not that it was a mistake. We actually kind of considered the fact that we were going to buy two. In fact, we were pretty certain that that was a very, very, very good possibility. But we got a little excited and bought a third one. We figured out how to get them home. In fact, what's great about it is it gave us a little more content to put on this show for you guys. So that was kind of fun. I shouldn't call it show. I should call it channel. But hey, I've been watching shows my whole life, not just channels. So, yeah, you'll get confident likely, and other people will too probably, and you get caught up in the moment. I didn't get caught up in the moment, but I did bid one more time than I thought that I would on a car that we won, and that was okay. It wasn't over a price that I'd ever set, but if my budget's $10,000 and I see a, what is it, 1985 Yugo going on the block, it doesn't mean that I should pay $10,000 for it. By the way, you know what you call a four-door Yugo, right? It's called a Wego. Yeah, that's an 80s joke. But still a good one. Let's talk about how do you know if it's a car that you really want? What do you get to do before you purchase the car? They have an area behind the big stage, in fact, that all the cars are lined up. They're all sitting there. And they're sitting there at 8 in the morning when you're allowed in. So you can go in there and you can actually start to look at them. If you have a bidder's pass, I think, or a guest pass, you can open the doors, you can sit in them, you can open the hood if it's not open and look at the engine, you can crawl under it. If you don't have those things, you're not supposed to touch the car. So if you're there just to watch, spectator pass, and those are the people sitting in the bleachers, by the way, in the background. Everybody that's a bidder can sit at the tables up front. And then they have a gold pass area. The gold pass area gets you in the very front, and then up on another little area where you can have cocktails and stuff like that. How do you get in? Okay, so and what does it cost? So let's go to buy. Let's just say we want to register to bid. Let's see where we can do that. Okay, you choose your auction. And in this case, I want to go to Glendale, Arizona, which I don't think I've done it yet, so let's do it right now. I'm going to register to bid. I'm going to sign in. So you have my information right here, except for you not going to know my password. That is information that I will not give out. By the way, I do not give away information for free. Only if I'm being tortured. Okay, so I've already done it. So here's me, it already knows me. I bought a year pass, by the way. So a year pass is $400, so I can go to as many Mecum auctions as I want, and I'm a bidder. I think the regular, like one auction pass, I don't know if it's $40 or $100. I feel like it's about $100, but I'll post it right there how much it really is for one auction. I'm going to do in person. I have an annual RSVP, so mine is $0. I'm going to say next. I would like to provide my ID, so I'm going to have to do that. And then I will put in my driver's license information. I also have to take pictures of my ID and send it in. Okay, that's that one. Let's put it in. Open. There it is. Let's do that. And I'm going to say next. And now it's asking for verification of funds. This is important. So you don't need verification of funds if you plan on buying any vehicle under $50,000. I bet you that even applies to, you could buy 10 vehicles for $40,000, which would be $400,000, but you don't need to verify that. So I'm going to say, because of the fact that I can only bid up to $50,000, I'm not going to need to do that. Okay. General bidding rules, just say yes. You've got Mecum, bidders, consigners, and I would guess sellers. Maybe that's consigner. Next, additional passes. I'm not going to buy any because I could buy those at the door, probably for the same price. So I get a free one anyway. So for any auction that I go to, you're going to get them. You're going to get a bidder pass, which you saw in the Ford video, so watch that. And you're also going to get a guest pass. Like I said, I did it for a year. It was $400. I've read the terms for guest pass rules. I'm responsible for that person. Payment terms, it's saying, do you understand these payments for, buying these things? With vehicles, it's cash, check, wire transfer, cryptocurrency. I brought cash. Probably won't next time. Maybe I will. I don't know. Motorcycles, tractors, they're all the same. Now, road art you can do with anything, including a credit card. The others, you can't use a credit card to buy a vehicle, not even a motorcycle, so don't think about it. And I think there's a surcharge on that too. It's a 3% imposed transaction amounts on Visa, MasterCard, etc. I understand. Buyer's premiums. This is important, guys. Buyer's premiums are really important. So these are your buyer's premiums. If you buy a car, you're going to pay a 10% premium. If you buy a car over the phone, you're going to pay a 12% premium. If you buy a car over the internet, you're going to pay a 12% premium. Motorcycles are the same, and road art is more. It's in-person is 20%, telephone and internet bidding is 22% over the price that you think you're going to pay. So if you pay $500, for road art, that's 22%. That's going to end up being $10 that you're really going to pay. So that applies to cars too. So whenever you hear, oh, I'm buying a car, and they say the hammer price is $10,000, you're going to pay $1,000 in a buyer's premium if you're there. You're going to spend a little bit more than that via telephone or internet. So if you buy a $10,000 car, that car is really plus 10% of it, which is $1,000. So it's $11,000. Also, there's a $150 processing fee. I think it was $150. So for any transaction, you're going to also add on another $150. So that $10,000 just became $11,150. When you look at the website and they show you the price of things that sold, let's look at a result. Let's go to Las Vegas, okay? And I'll explain what I paid for one of our cars. Here's for the Ford. It says that we paid $8,250. So the hammer price was $7,500. So what this shows is $7,500 plus 10%. So what this really shows is the price after the buyer's premium. This isn't true either, though. Their system is showing $8,250, which is $7,500 plus 10%. What it doesn't say, and what they don't really tell you unless you look it up, is that for any car that you buy, the minimum buyer's premium is actually $1,000. So If the hammer hits for $1,000, you have $1,000 buyer's premium on that too. So that car was actually $2,000 plus the $150 processing fee that you had to pay. So that $1,000 car was really $2,150. So remember, there's a couple rules to that. Anything under 10,000 or anything less than $1,000 premium is going to be $1,000 premium. So our hammer price, as you can see right here, it shows 8,250. Our hammer price was 7,500 plus 10%. But the truth is, this should say 8,500. They could put an easy if statement in there. If hammer price less than $10,000, then add 1,000 and don't add 10%. So what this really should say is 8,500 because our hammer price was 7,500 and it was really $1,000 buyer's premium. I actually like that they show the buyer's premium on these, because when I'm looking through these, it's closer to real representation of real life. Even though there's a little bit of an error in here in Mr. Mecum, I would correct that if I were you. That's super easy. Like I said, it's an if statement, if then kind of thing, conditional statement. It's just one line of code. Well, it's really more like 3 lines of code, but super easy to do. You don't really have to show the buyer's premium on there, but if you're going to show that, show it for the cars that are under $10,000 too. That would be super helpful for people because you're not showing the hammer price anyway. You're showing the price that people paid after hammer price, so fix that. I think that'd be awesome. Yeah, so my real price, or Nightmare Logistics' real price on this car was actually 7,500 plus 1,000, which is 8,500 plus 150, which is $8,650. So that's what we paid walking out the door. And we did that for 3 different cars. So they made. There's a seller's premium too, so they're making good money on this stuff, and they should because they've got a lot to do. The logistics are massive. They've got people in different rooms that are processing payments. They've got servers set up. They've got partitions everywhere, printers. They have huge amounts of staff. They're rolling out red and black carpets. They're putting up a really cool stage. They're staging the cars. The cost of the facilities, it's got to be astronomical. And all of the people there, by the way, that work at Mecum, if you see them in a Mecum shirt, I don't know about the guys that push the cars, but all those other people, they're employees of Mecum. They're not just brought in. They have to bring in people that know what they're doing, that know how to process your payments. They have to bring in people that are familiar with bringing cars in and moving them around. And I don't think you can do that unless your guys that work for you are experienced at it. So they bring even the guys that move the cars around, they'll drive them from one side of the facility to another. They're all Mecum employees, and they're all awesome, by the way. They did some cool stuff for us. We got to know a couple of them, and they were fun, and they enjoy it. They love cars, and they would buy every single car there if they could. But we all have a budget. If I was a billionaire, I couldn't even imagine how many cars I'd own. I mean, I would have at least 100, 150 cars if I was a billionaire. I mean, there's no doubt about it because it's my passion. Let's talk about transport. Okay. We've had questions. We've had quite a few questions on, hey, can you actually drive that car, legally with a Mecum plate on it? And the answer is you can, but not because there's a Mecum plate on it. You can, and in the state of California, if you have one of these. It's a one-trip permit. So this one-trip permit, we have a couple of them right now. I can go buy as many as I want. They're anywhere from $25 to $45 in the state of California. But what they do is they allow you to move a vehicle, even from another state here, for up to, I don't know if it's 5 or 7 days. I don't remember offhand. I don't have any road trips where I'm going to need 7 days, so 5 is good enough. But I have to fill this thing out. I have to put in all the information, name, address, the car, probably the VIN, all that kind of stuff. And I keep this in the windshield, but I can buy as many of these as I want. And if I'm doing it legally, which I am, of course, I'm going to fill these out, put all the information in, the start date, You have to put all that on there. It has to be pre-filled out, and I'm going to stick it in my windshield. So it says the front left side. I don't know if it's the front left from the outside or the front left from the inside, but just put it in the front. You could probably put it in the back window too. So yeah, you can drive legally with a Mecum plate on there, but it's not because there's a Mecum plate on there. You know, let's talk about registration. So I don't know if these cars are registered when you get them. So none of the cars that I had that I'm aware of were registered. I didn't have plates for them. The person that sells the car, I think they turn their license plates over, not license plates, but their titles over to Mecum. And then Mecum, after you pay, is going to process them. So they're not going to be registered, but this is kind of like a state blessing. And I looked it up because somebody asked about New York, and New York does something similar too. So check your state. Maybe you can even get them through other states. I don't know. I just went over to a DMV kind of place. It's one of those places that does registration for you near your house. And I said, hey, can I get a couple of these? And they said, sure. I think they're $25 at DMV, and I paid like $45 for them just for the convenience. But they're like, how many do you want? I wanted 2. I took 2. So I could buy 10 if I wanted to. I just don't want to pay $450 to hold on to 10. But anyway, that's how you get these things home legally if you want to drive. That's what we did, you know. And to us, that's the adventure. That's the whole thing of this. It's go to the auction one way, take the risk, jump in a car, and drive it home. Yeah, you might break down. Check the tires. Make sure it's not going to, have a blowout on you. Make sure that it has working brakes. Check your blinkers when you're checking the car out. Make sure it's drivable. Check the oil. If it doesn't have any oil in it, then it may not hold oil if you add oil to it. You don't know by just looking at the cars and have somebody start it for a minute. But you can pump the brakes and see if it builds pressure. You can ask them to put it into drive, or maybe watch them when they move it. See if it goes into drive. See if it goes into reverse. You could ask them. You could ask them to turn on the AC, and see if it turns on the compressor at least. Tell them to put it on max. Make sure that compressor turns on. You could ask them to turn on the heater. You're not going to know if it's really working though, because the engine probably won't be hot. You can turn on the radio. You can make sure that it starts, that the battery doesn't die. You could probably take a voltmeter with you and just have them start it and jump it across it and see if it has 13.2 volts while it's running. At least you kind of know if the alternator's working, or generator. Generator, not so much, because they don't put out constant voltage. So things like that. Another thing you can do is you can have the vehicle transported. So they actually have services right there that allow you to transport a vehicle. They'll put them on a big truck for you and they'll get it home. I don't know how much it costs. I'm guessing, obviously, based on distance, and if you want it enclosed or if you want it on a, flatbed truck. It's going to vary, of course. But I don't imagine you're ever going to spend more than a couple of K transporting it. If you've got a $1 million Ferrari, what is it, GTO 250 or whatever that one is, that's at Kissimmee on next Saturday. That could be $1 to $4 million. I have no idea. Maybe it's 12 million. I don't know, but I wouldn't put it on the back of a flatbed. I'd put it in an enclosed. It'd be by itself, in its own tractor trailer, with armed security guards driving it. It'd be like Afghanistan with Humvees on front and back and some blacked out Suburbans with turrets on the top and guys with suits in them with little microphones, kind of like this, but not so goofy looking. Maybe that's what you do. But so you have options. Yeah, and getting the car out. You drive it out. You're actually piloting your own car around through the auction kind of backstage area, and there's a big door that's open, and there's a guy standing there. He takes your slip that says you paid, and he lets you go on your way. So they don't check to see if you have insurance. They don't check to see if it has registration. Their assumption is you're taking it out so that you can transport it off on a trailer. So other people have driven cars off. I don't know what they did. I know that there was a gentleman there that bought a 2000 something or maybe 1980s or 90s Mercedes, and he was going to drive it to, I feel like he was driving it to the Sacramento area. So, you know, he was going to have his own fun little trip. So good for him, by the way. Hopefully he made it back safely. Maybe we'll see you, if you're watching, at Glendale. Maybe at Las Vegas Motorcycles. He looked kind of scruffy, so he might be a motorcycle guy. You know, one of those manly guys. Kind of like the rest of us. Yeah, it's going to take 3 to 4 weeks to get the title in the mail. Then you're going to take it to your DMV, and you're going to go get it registered. You know, in California, you have to verify the DMV or the VIN. So I actually had to take the vehicle over, or vehicles in this case, 3 of them. Selling a car on Mecum, I don't know. I think it'd be pretty much the same thing. You probably have to register the vehicle. You have to have a title. I can guarantee that. So if you don't have that pink slip, that actual title in hand, they probably won't accept the vehicle. Oh, when you're looking at vehicles, okay, a lot of cars will have something at the bottom saying something about condition of sale. But they're going to have something that might say branded title, might say salvage title, might say not restored. What's the other one? There's something else, but so you know, you got to be careful of that. Look for the conditions of sale, and just remember though that I think when they announce the car coming across the block, that they tell about the conditions of sale. Like, this vehicle has a salvage title. Okay, salvage titles aren't going to be worth as much as, you know, clean titles. It's just a fact of life. In fact, good luck selling a car with a salvage title. It's not easy, at least for, you know, without getting your shirt taken off of you. So anyway, I think that's it. I think that's everything. I think we covered it all.